Welcome, my friends. So today we're gonna go commentate over some Telos kills using melee. These are primarily aimed for 1000% and above, but you can use some of these rotations for below it. Be warned, however, that because of Telos' freedom being different at 1000% and then lower at 150 and 250% respectively, and then, anything in between, it will be a little bit different if you try to use these rotations for sub 1000%. Also, I am using best of slot basically everything here, so you can downgrade as necessary, and you can actually get pretty far without needing complete tippy top best of slot. However, for maximum security and like the best chances of getting all these rotations down to the T, you would kind of want best in slot. So, Masterwork, Kopech's, ZGS, and Spear. Masterwork Spear of Annihilation. The Nox Scythe is actually something that some people have told me that they haven't really used, but I use this a lot personally still, so that's why I still have it in my preset. However, I think most people probably might not get used of it, so you can feel free to ditch this completely in your preset. One more thing that you need is that you need to have a turtling 4 switch on a piece of armor. Now, you may think, well, why don't you put it on your defender? Well, this is because defender is primarily there for DPS while you use your defensives. So, you really want to make sure you're doing a ton of damage within your something like barricade in this case. So, having something like precise or, well, before archaeology, but like nowadays you put on aftershock. Having something like aftershock on your defender with Equilibrium 2 can improve your DPS by quite a bit, so having that over 24 on the defender itself would make a difference. If you can't afford that aftershock for Equilibrium 2, you can instead just slap on Equilibrium 4 perk on it and you're good to go. Preferably Equilibrium 4 mobile on it. But also, in addition to turning 4 on your piece of legs, you also want to make sure that you have Clear-Headed 4 on it as well. This will give you a super long anticipation, and that is super nice for P4 and P5. We'll cover that later. But for now, let's get started with the actual kill and setup. Right off the bat, we start off with a Dragon Battle Axe right outside the portal, and instantly go back to full adrenaline. Also, I use Heightened Senses over Berserker's Fury Relic here because I feel like that the Relic gives me better opportunities for rotations in P2 and P3, but your mileage may vary there. So first off here, right when you are ready to start the fight, start with like a random defensive. It could be anything you want except for Resonance / Divert or Devotion. So here I'll use Revenge to stall and trigger my global cooldown, and then I instantly step here, and then 2 ticks after that global cooldown starts, this is where you want to surge, start to surge, and then you'll surge mid GCD, and then instantly use Devotion right here. And then after that, you'll want to do something called target cycling, which lets you hit Telos quicker than normally just like clicking on him. Like if I try to click on him, this will be slower than trying to target cycle him. So you see this Devotion, and then Target Cycle, and I immediately use my SS Finality spec, Astadius Warhammer, to attack him instantly, and drain his defenses, and raise his affinity drastically. This ensures I can have 100% hit chance throughout the entire fight, and it's really good, and helps make melee 100% consistent for these kills. Now, Target Cycling can be a little tricky to time if you don't know how to do it properly. As I said earlier, you want to make sure that you are surging 2 ticks after the global cooldown right here. That will put you like perfect timing between using a defensive again like Devotion right here, and then right when you're ready to use ability, you can target cycle, and then you immediately just do ability just like that. So think of it that way. Also, you can also use this as a timer to see where things go. So if we go back through here and we check out when I use Devotion and when that timer shows up. So right about soon, Devotion will be used very soon. And then both Devotion and the timer goes off on the same tick. And then 3 ticks after this, or in other words, a full global cooldown goes off. then you can target cycle properly. Then after this, you want to build back to 100%, or rather max adrenaline as soon as possible. You can do any sequence of abilities, but it's highly recommended you prioritize your 180% abilities. Dismember first, and then use your cleave into decimate into sever. And then after that, once you get to full adrenaline, you don't need to vigor your sizable hammer there, by the way, but you do want to vigor most of your specs from here on out. From here on out, then, you immediately zerk and step away. You'll take a little bit of extra damage, but it's not too bad because the next thing you're gonna do, you're gonna take off your plate body. This will make sense soon, and then you want to try to use Divert. Divert is an ability that gives you adrenaline instead of LP, which is what Resident would normally do, but Divert gives you very valuable adrenaline right here, as you can see by me instantly getting 36% adrenaline right then and there. Now, if you don't get it, then you can just simply A-pot. But basically, this adrenaline that you get from Divert lets you skip adrenaline renewals at P1, so you can instantly save it. You can save it for a different time, allowing you to have more flexibility in future phases in case you need it either for an emergency or if in the future I find a different rotation to optimize things and use an A-pot elsewhere. But either way, we use an A-pot. We don't use A-pot here. We use Divert instead to gain our adrenaline. If it doesn't work out, he splashes on you when you use Divert. That's okay. We'll come back to that later. After that Divert, however, use Barge, Greater Barge, and then if you got the Divert, then put on your armor again and then immediately cleave. If you didn't get the Divert, then leave it off and hit him with a Decimate with your defender. And then if he hits you here and you have Divert up, then immediately go back and put on your armor and then use cleave. If you don't get the Divert, then unfortunately there's nothing you can do, so that's where you have to A-pot and then use, after your decimate, you use cleave. Now here's the big part about P1 and clearing tendrils right here with melee. After your two basics, you step out of range and you stall your Bleed's Assault immediately. So you step out of range and then you use it and then you click away so you don't immediately go back towards Telos right here. And then right before your global cooldown finishes, you want to click back on Telos and then immediately use Hurricane in order for the first hit of your assault and your two Hurricane hits to stack on top of each other. This will generally clear almost all the time at 24-49%. At this range is pretty straightforward and pretty easy to break instantly, but at 24-49, there's a chance that sometimes it just won't completely break it all the time. However, it's not too common, and if it doesn't break you out at those higher ranges, this next hit from your second assault hits will surely seal the deal and instantly break you out right then and there, so you take no damage. There's a very, very rare chance at 2700%, all of this will fail to clear you out instantly. That's pretty uncommon, and a simple cleave or another basic right after that will finish the job anyway, so it's no big deal. After that, generally speaking, he should be phased right after your basic after that Hurricane. Here what I do is I use Backhand here to pop his freedom here instantly, and then I do something called pre-phase and damage with Quake here. But before we go over that, there's another big reason why target cycling is important, because if you fail the target cycle, we'll go back around here. If you fail the target cycle, you actually will not be able to stall assault in this way. If you fail the target cycle, you will have to bladed dive away and stall the assault, and then click back away, and then click back towards Telos, and then click on him again to release that stalled assault. The reason why is because you may have noticed that Telos right here, he didn't follow me here. He just stayed there with that massive melee range. If you do not target cycle perfectly, then he's not going to do that. He's going to immediately follow you, so you cannot stall that assault at all. So you'll have to blade dive away right before your assault, and then you can assault right then and there. That's the backup you need to do if you fail the target cycle. And also, if you fail a target cycle, you have to do 3 abilities with... You have to do 3 basic abilities after your status Warhammer instead of 4. So, like, you know, if you go... Like, around here, you see that I did 4 basic abilities. Dismember, Cleave, Decimate, and Sever. If I failed a target cycle and I was late, then instead I'll only be able to do Status Warhammer spec, a Dismember, and a Cleave, and a Decimate. And then I have to skip Sever to Berserk. So that's how it'll go. But anyways, back to pre-phasing. So for pre-phasing, this is something that's like a weird quirk of Telos. If you use like an AoE ability right when this message appears, like notice right here when the quake goes off and this message appears. So if we go back here, like right as this goes off, right as quake goes off and this message appears, that's basically the same tick where Telos phases. These AoE abilities can actually transfer over to the next phase. Now ignore the bars that comes up and like just see what I mean here. So you see two hit splats right here, and you know there's no way your bars can hit twice in a row. That is because of the quake. That transfers itself over because AoE abilities, for some reason, if you use it right when you phase Telos, they will transfer themselves over to the next phase, and you can do damage like that. Cleave technically works, but because Telos has that 1 tick of damage immunity at the start of every phase, that won't work at all. So that's a little weird and strange. But that being said, let's go rewind a little bit here, and you may have noticed that again that I waited a tick here. As I said earlier, he has that 1 tick of damage reduction, so you don't want to barge immediately. You want to barge immediately a tick after you regain control here. So one thing you could do is that, I don't do it here, but one thing that I've seen people do, and I also recommend people to do, is try to spam a spiritual prayer potion or like any other like thing there, and then the tick after you see it restored, that's your cue to use barge right then and there. So this is a fast P2. Note that this is one way to do P2, and this is a rotation I'm experimenting with here overall, and I'll tell you like other fast rotation to go with, but they might make you splash a little bit, especially if you're using the Reaver's Ring, which lowers your accuracy. But because of Status Warhammer, that's not as big of a deal here. But either way, right? If you're doing the fast rotation here, you really want to bleed a flurry right here because, you know, assault and destroy are on cooldown. After you bleed flurry, you want to step back by a few squares and then use ZGS spec. This will be important because after this, you're going to do a cleave and escape at the same tick. This is perfect. This has to be perfect. Otherwise, if you are late even by a single tick with your escape right there, Telos will not be able to escape the Black Beam, and then you'll be forced to deal with the Onslaught spec. However, you will be forced to deal with the Onslaught spec if you face him only 1 auto attack after 10 joules on P1. If you face him 2 auto attacks after 10 joules on P1, it wouldn't be as big of a deal. Now, moving on. You want to blade dive back in and then attack him further. Here, I actually don't stun lock him. This is a experimental rotation I'm working with here where all I do is just a Hurricane and a Status Warhammer spec, and I just pump him full of stronger basics right here and Ruby Demon specs. So you want to move in here. And also, a little bit important to get your Freedom autos right here where you do a dual wield ability like a Decimate, or, you know, like dual wield Sever, and then you use Freedom, so you get both your offhand autos with your Kofesh right here, and your ZGS right there, and then I use a Status Warhammer to spec again to further drain his defense, so I don't splash on P3 with Reaver's Ring on. Right, when this happens, I lowered his health down enough to the point where I can safely face him right after this hold still. And because my health is high, I'll elect to use Divert here to get a really good adrenaline buff there. and then I want to finish him off right there, and that's P2 done. Now, the alternative for P2 right here is you could, I think this current rotation might be the best so far to balance out like Reaver's Reign and all, but an alternative that I've been using before I try this rotation is, I would, not here. So like you go around here, like after the Blade Dive search, I would throw a sticky bomb right at the tick after this dismember here, and when it lands there, because sticky bombs can proc Telos of Freedom, he will freedom right before this auto attack right here, and that will give me time to use Destroy and then do enough DPS to phase him before Hold Still, and this will get him down before a full 1 minute. And as you can see around here, he phases at around 103. But if I did the stun lock rotation instead, where I stunned him after throwing a sticky bomb, I could enter P3 by 1 minute. However, that being said, because of Reaver's Ring, if I went like that, then there's honestly like a fair chance of me actually splashing on P3, so I haven't been doing that all these streaks, unfortunately. But yeah, that's basically that. And there's also an alternative, there's even a different rotation key you can do on P2. And this works real good because you also do not need ZGS here. What you could do here is that on P1, instead of like immediately going to the drop-off point just like this, you can stay right here and wait for your destroy cooldown come back in time. So like you stay here, instead of Blade Dive over here, you just manually run over here and just get over here. And then after that, after you do your barge right here, you can use Destroy. It would make more sense in P3. I'll show it off right here actually. So you can do this rotation. You barge and then you do Destroy. We'll come back to P3 later, but for now we'll go over that P2 second alternate rotation. What you do is you bleed Destroy, you switch to your 2H weapon, look out for the auto attack animation, and then immediately follow it up with a backhand. And then use Forceful Backhand. And you'll see here that because of that stun lock, that freedom that he does counts as like a weird midi stun, so he's even further delayed. In P2, you can use this to your advantage right here. So what you could do is that after your Destroy, you can do the 5-tick auto into your backhand, into Forceful Backhand, and then Blade Dive over here, and then he will follow you and then exit out of the Black Beam like so, and that will be no problem. And then you can do more damage with your spear by doing stuff like Blood Tendrils and Slaughter, and you can still get him down pretty reliably after Hold Still, and you only lose around 5 or 10-ish seconds here, which is not a bad trade at all. And this is also a lot safer to do over the ZGS rotation, where it can actually drain a little bit of your health here, and it can hurt a little bit at higher rages. So if you're pushing a rage, I would recommend you to stun lock him instead of ZGSing. But anyway, that's enough of P2. Let's go back to P3 right here. So you do that stun lock rotation I just described right here. You know, the bleed, Destroy, 5-tick, auto into backhand, Forceful Backhand. Right here, P3 is a little variable, but the overall principle always remains the same. So beams can spawn in some different formations. Like it can spawn like this. It can also spawn like this. If it spawns like this will spawn on top of Telos. This is actually good. We'll get back to it later. And it can also spawn like this, which is a pretty good position. And it can also spawn like this, which is also a good one. This, which touches Telos and dead in the center, this is also a good one. And it could also spawn right here. This one and also this one is actually a little bit weird to work with in terms of positioning, but but both this one and this one are tackled on the same way, and also like all these in general. So basically, what you want to do is you actually want to lure Telos inside the red beam. This is actually important because how Telos drains stuff is the further it is to the left, the more prayer and adrenaline it will drain. And adrenaline is a huge commodity here, and you don't want it to go away. So you really want to make sure that it's as high as possible. It's not like magic where because you're using a metamorphosis rotation and using limitless, Telos basically drains like only 5%. No, you want to keep all of your adrenaline anyways. But again, even if it did happen, that divert in P1 is a really nice safeguard there. So in case you exit P1 with like no adrenaline, that adrenaline potion that you saved on P1 can come in handy for P4. But I'm getting a little bit off topic here. The point is, you want to lure Telos inside of the red beam right around here, and right when you do so, you want to stack your bleeds, and then after you get all 3 of your bleeds, your dismember, your blood tendrils, and your slaughter, you want to enter in, like, you want to walk him, and then immediately go into the red beam. Now, you may have noticed right around here that I have entered him. I started enter at the corner right here. This is pretty deliberate because sometimes Telos' walks can be a little bit wonky, and if he ends up walking to the east and wants to like go towards the base, if I ended up right here and I want to walk through him, this will take me like an extra tick or so to get inside, and that could end up pushing the bar too much to the right, and it'll force me to use Disruptive Shield, which would be a little bit unoptimal for damage. But anyway, if he walked over to the right here, it wouldn't matter because then I would be taken perfectly into MD of him, and then I could do damage right here. So like after you do your slaughter right around here, you want to do a cleave and then use assault almost right away. Sometimes, if you use Assault after Hold Still to get him down quicker, if his health is too high, then Assault will be on cooldown by one global cooldown. So you can instead add in a Decimate after your Cleave and right before Assault. But either way, you also want to pair it with Disruptive Shield with your Assault so you can pray Soul Split the entire time and basically get a huge Soul Split heal off of your Assault hits. But in this case, I didn't, so I missed out on some health, but I was already at full, so it didn't really matter. This is optional right here. So after your basic, after your assault, you can either go for a resonance if you're at high adrenaline, or you can go for a diver. It's not really required. I just did it because, whatever. But yeah, it's not that important. Right here, I do the stun and do the quick pre-phase again. Sometimes this may not go all too well. If you find yourself doing a little bit too little DPS on P3, that might be a little bit of a problem. And if you're not careful, you can find yourself with another beam on Telos here. And since you use Disruption Shield and probably Resonance or Divert, that if the second beam spawns on Telos, then that might spell trouble. So if you want to play it safe, run to the base of the beam right here, and that'll basically help ensure that there's a high chance that you won't get another beam on top of him. But if something like this happens where it spawns like right there, then you can instantly like run away towards here and stop him from getting more of the charge, and then you'll be a bit more safe. Although it'll still be a little spooky if you don't have fast reflexes. But either way, that's P3 done. In short, you basically want to lure Telos in the red beam no matter what, and let him soak up a little bit, and then go to town. If you let him inside the red beam for too long, then you need to delay that assault. I don't have a clip of it right here, but that being said, right around here, if you lure him into the right side of the beam for too long, you need to follow up with a cleave. You have to follow this cleave with another basic right before this assault, and then that will line up perfectly with a shockwave attack that will happen a tick after his auto attack right here. So you see this thing here. The tick after this auto attack, he will do the shockwave. This is tick perfect. If you don't get the timing down, you are dead. But either way, after you get that timing, you do your assault, you do the usual rotation, and then if you really feel like it's a little bit spooky, you can run to the base of the beam and then go from there. Do the quick pre-phase if you want to for extra damage, and then move on. And then for the start of P4, this is also pretty straightforward. You do the same thing as you did for P3 with the barred Stunlock rotation with that. If you want to be safe. In this case, I'm doing it fast, so I want to save a little bit of time here. What I do instead is I bleed Flurry and then use Destroy to stun him there. This is the faster but also more dangerous rotation because the whole goal of P4 is to stun lock him for as much as possible, so he doesn't do a single special attack. Because if he does that special attack, he's gonna send out rocks, and that will ruin your day. Especially with melee, where positioning golems is much more important than with range or magic. But either way, if you want to have a safer time here, then you just do the same thing as you did on P3, where you do the barge, bleed, destroy, 5-tick into forceful. Sorry, you do the barge, bleed, destroy into backhand, into forceful backhand, and then use a size Warhammer again to reapply the affinity debuff and the defense drain. And then once he hits the phase point, then you instantly go into the font and use reflect. You can blow Limitless here just fine. You don't use Limitless basically anywhere else in the fight, so using it right here just for reflect is perfectly okay. And then right here, you want to make sure that golems are in a 3x3 area because this is where your sticky bombs are going to come into play. And listen closely because sticky bombs are by far the most challenging part about learning melee Telos from most people's feedback from learning melee Telos. Either way, so sticky bombs cover a 3x3 area. So if you look closely right here, this is like 1 square, this is 1 square, this is 1 square. If I threw the sticky bomb at this part, which I will very soon, then it will cover this area right around here. So in this place, you want to keep building up your basics and all that. Now, here's the timing for throwing your sticky bombs. Look at the chat box message and look for Telos saying, "You dare to defy me." This is your cue for everything regarding your sticky bombs. Right when you see this, you want to throw your first sticky bomb into that 3x3 area to catch all these golems. And then right after you throw this first sticky bomb, then you want to make sure you throw the second bomb immediately after. And then I'll talk about the other Stunlock rotation later, but because of this, because sticky bomb clouds last for 6 seconds and the bind itself lasts for 6 seconds, that means that once this initial bind runs out, these guys will run into the next cloud and then they'll get bound again. If you need to bind them again, once you see them get bound here again, you can simply throw another sticky bomb right around here and then they'll get bound again. So you can keep chain binding them just like this and keep them away as deterrents all the way until the end of here, if you need to, but you probably don't need to. But anyways, let's go back to that Stunlock rotation right there. So you have a 2-tick window here for this barge right around here. So this may look a little bit spooky. You're barging out of the font and then running back into the font with that insta-kill hot on your tail. Now that looks spooky, but trust me, if you spam click to here right as you click back to barge, there's basically like a guaranteed chance you will always live here. So don't worry too much about this part. Like barging out of it is actually not too spooky. So right around here. By the way, the timing for this is 3 or 4 ticks after this message pops up. So get the timing down here with however way you want to do. Like if you use like an ability right as this message pops up, then you have clearance to just immediately barge him right then and there. In this case, I barged him 4 ticks after this message appears. So basically, right as he got up. And then I run back, barge, pop his freedom instantly there. And then I can use destroy. And because destroy stuns from afar, no matter if you're far away or not, this stuns him for long. And I'm gonna do another fast rotation here where I instantly use 3-hit assault right here and do some big damage. If you want to play it safe, follow up with a backhand immediately and then a forceful backhand. However, because you can't 5-tick auto as reliably, you need to deliberately delay your backhand after your bleed assault by 2 ticks. And pretend that you did a 5-tick right after that, but because you can't actually do that 5-tick because Telos is too far from the font right here. Like you see how I have to run up to him and spend an extra tick right before I can release that first destroy. Then that 5-tick can't go off. So I have to wait those 2 ticks with no auto attack in between for that backhand and then forceful backhand. But because we're doing faster strats here. After that bleed destroy, I just do a 3-hit assault and then a basic, and then he's phased into the next font. Okay, so font 2 is also a little bit of a struggle point for some learners, and this is also another fast strategy, but again, there are alternatives. What you can do is you can hover around this area and let these golems run up to you, and they will clump up around here. You can also wait for your reflect. You can also wait for your reflect right here to come off cooldown, and if you did the Sonic rotation there, it will have an even better. It'll come back much quicker as well, so you'll be able to use reflect for font 2, so you can keep yourself alive. It's slower, but if it means getting the kill, then so be it. Either way, this is the fast strategy that I do right here, where I instantly go into the font, and then I click 2 squares around here, right as this hits me. So right as this hits, I move 2 squares to this part, and then I click back right here to this area in order to lure all these golems into a nice 3x3 rotation for me to sticky bomb into. So I throw it into dead center in this 3x3 rotation right here, and then that gets me really good results right here. So they all get bound, you throw the second sticky bomb right there, and you throw the sticky bomb after you dare to find me in the chat, and then get ready to barge. This time, however, I don't barge him out of the font and then run back, because this is actually too far. This will actually get me killed, unfortunately. So this is a no-go. What I do is, instead, I barge right as this message appears. You survived the Anna bomb, and that is tick perfect. If you are tick early, you're gonna land an insta kill, of course. If you're tick late, he's gonna do an auto attack, and then you pop his freedom, and then he'll do another auto attack after that because of how his freedom mechanics work, and you will take a lot of damage there by his magic attack and then his melee attack that could probably KO you. So this barge is tick perfect. And then after that, because following up with a stun is wasteful, you want to use bleed flurry first, and then use destroy. Because assault is on cooldown from font 1, I can't use it here. But if you didn't use assault here, then you can use assault here just fine. But it just wouldn't. But it kind of messes up with font 3 a little bit, but not terribly so. Either way, you want to get flurry and destroy off. If you didn't phase him with just destroy, with 3-hit destroy, use backhand and forceful backhand if need be, and then phase him to 37.5k LP, and then you're good to go for font 3. Now, this is like a hybrid between fast strats, where you instantly go from here to, and like a hybrid between safe strats and that. Let me rephrase. This strategy I'm going to do is a hybrid between fast strategies, where you just go immediately there, and the wraparound strategy, where you trap all these golems behind here in a single file line. So you want to go into this area around here and throw another sticky bomb here to cover your tracks, so these guys don't touch you at all. So they are all completely bound and they won't be able to hit you at all. You want to bladed dive over these rows. Do not run through them. If you run through them, then this next thing won't work. Then you want to like click on this guy. I do it too quickly here to really show it off really well. But what I do is I click on this guy, use Ingenuity Humans, and then Entangle. You can use Entangle on Lunars if you have borrowed power. After that, then I immediately go in there. with that entangle there, all these golems get stuck behind this golem right here, and then it allows me to go do font 3 with no hassle whatsoever. And then for font 3, you basically just do the same thing. You use your defensive like resonance, reflect, but right here, here's where the hybrid of the fast strats come into play. So right here, I use ZJ spec, and that will boost my damage a little bit right here. So I pre-barge him here, and then I stall assault, a little bit similar to P1, and then release it with Hurricane or Cleave, it doesn't really matter. And then I finish off with a basic, and he's instantly phased. Now this is a fast strategy, and doing the ZJS rotation also requires me to A-pot. If you A-pot at the start of P4, if you had like no adrenaline, then you won't be able to benefit from it as much, and you'll end up with a little bit less adrenaline to spare, unfortunately. So instead, you can just do the same font 1 rotation where, you barge out of the font, hit Telos, and then you use Bleed Destroy, and then like backhand, forceful backhand, and then hit him right then and there. You can still do that, and you won't lose too much time, but you do lose a few seconds compared to ZGSing font 3 right here. The fastest way to do this is incredibly inconsistent, especially if you're trying to streak, as I do right now, so that's why I don't do the super fast font. And even then, I haven't found a way to use ZGS spec inside fast font 3, which does lose more time there, so this probably loses only around like 3 seconds at most or whatever, possibly, because he instantly dies after the bleed and then, Hurricane and all that. One thing that's pretty important is to have mobile on when you barge right here. And for P5, jumping ahead here, you're also going to be barging on P5 as well. Make sure you have it on for both these parts. And then we move into P5. P5 is a little technical, but thankfully, unlike with magic, or even range to a very slight degree, there is like no RNG here. Well, range has no RNG, but that's beside the point. So right here, you want to throw the Vuln Bomb instantly right there. Right-clicking this square like right before P5 starts proper is pretty helpful. So you can just go right-click here instantly, and then wait here deliberately. You may notice I don't barge instantly. This is deliberate. You want to barge right as this message appears. Where it tells you to kill the golems to charge an irrelevant mechanic. But either way, you want to barge instantly like that with Disruptive Shield up. This is important because if you pray melee, let me start from the beginning. Because Telos' autos are always prioritized when using like defensive like Disruptive Shield or, Resonance here. Save for a couple of exceptions like Soul's Power, but again, that's beside the point. The point is, you want to have Disruptive Shield up and pray melee right here. With Disruptive Shield up right here, Telos' auto will attack at the same time, like any golem that spawns like here or here instantly at the same time there. So this basically guarantees you will never get KO at the start of P5 if you barge perfectly at this tick. So even if golems spawn here instantly slap you, then that's no problem because your Disruptive Shield will block Telos' auto, and your melee prayer will cover the golem autos right here. And then you want to blade dive into the beam right here. I'll cover back beams later. For now, I'm just only going to talk about the side beams. It's actually optimal to wait a tick before blade diving. Go into it as quickly as possible. Actually, a tiny bit less optimal, but if you want to go in as fast as possible, that's also fine too. It's not gonna be like a life or death difference. And it's a very minor detail that basically only like a few people are realistically gonna care about. Either way, you want to, after you blade dive, you want to, as you blade dive, you want to bleed your flurry here. If you have it available, you can bleed destroy, but because destroy is on cooldown, I can only bleed flurry right here, so that's a little bit unfortunate. But after you get inside the beam, instantly after that blade dive, use reflect first and then natural instinct right here. Natural Instinct first is better if you Blade Dive like instantly, but if you waited that tick, then Reflect first would actually be a little bit better. So Reflect, and then use Natural Instinct. Throw a Status Warhammer because you still have Reaver's Ring, you want your other abilities to attack, and if your P5 rotation goes wrong after Virus and all that, you still want to be able to hit Telos, so getting the Status Warhammer on him right now is the best time. So you want to use Reflect, Natural Instinct, your Status Warhammer spec, and then Revenge instantly. Also, you want to use your Power Burst of Vitality right here to double your health and basically get 50% damage reduction in a can. And here's a little bit of a spooky part right here. You want to Zerk with all these guys on top of you here. But here's where waiting that tick before Blade Diving actually comes into play. Remember how I said about Disruptive Shield will prioritize Telos' auto attacks here. Resonance will also do the same here. And if you get lucky and Telos hits you, you can Resonance this magic hit and you get a really juicy Reflect hit here. So like, normally, if Telos would hit you right here, which is pretty common overall, you would get both the Resonance heal, and you'll also be able to reflect a big juicy 10k hit back. I didn't get it here because Telos splashed on me, go figure, but that is really, really nice for ensuring that you will live right here, even when you Zerk and have that spooky moment there. But after your Resonance here, you want to switch to your 34 armor switch and then go for the Barricade. And then after that, Barge. And then here's where the fun really begins. This is very, very fun. You want to double claw right here, spam claws twice in a row, and then bleed your assaults right around here. And then right after your assault, if you want to be safe, you want to throw your sticky bombs to cover both bases of the beam, depending on where the virus is. So like if it was at, so in normal circumstances, if I was like just want to be as safe as possible, what I would do is I would, right after throwing the sticky bomb, right after using the assault right here, I'll throw a sticky bomb right here, and then after this dragon claw spec here, I'll throw the sticky bomb here to block both ways into there, and then go from there. Now don't try this at home, kids, because yeah, that's a little spooky. Don't do that at all. I did it because I want to show off in this in this clip, but it's whatever. You really just Blade Dive to the correct beam, because doing this is incredibly ballsy. Do not ever do this at all. But yeah, if you do all this perfectly and you do Zerk right before your Barricade and all that, you do so much damage that after you Blade Dive like to right here or whatever, you can just use a Destroy and then do 2 or 3 hits and then immediately use Dragon Claws and then he should be dead instantly. Now that being said, some people watching this may be like, well, you're Zerking with all these guys on you. That's incredibly dangerous. I don't want to risk that at all. That's fine. I think that's perfectly fair, fear to have. So what you can do instead is that instead of Berserk, you can instead bring out your Dragon Battle Axe spec for that damage boost there. Or instead of Berserk or Dragon Battle Axe, you can use Immortality instead right here to even further save yourself after this in case things go wrong. However, in my opinion, I think Zerk overall on the whole would suit you better, because this will allow you to get another Dragon Claws inside your Berserk, which will do a ton of damage and help you out big time. Because, if you Berserk after your Barricade, what you do is that you would Barricade, Barge, then Zerk, which means you'll lose out one of your Dragon Claw specs. So this will be replaced by Berserk, and then you do this one Dragon Claw, and then Assault, and then 2 more Dragon Claws. So Zerking inside Cade will give you only 3 Dragon Claws. Zerking outside of Cade will give you 4, and that is enough to instantly clear him, like so right around here. So keep that in mind right around there. Now that's side beams with Pures and Corrupts, but what if you get back beam? Well, if you get back beam, that's not really that big of a deal. So right around here, if you get the back beam, then you just blade dive over around here and then just run towards them. You can get a resonance here and then try it. Okay, this is a little bit of a mistake here. Here, instead of slice, I'm supposed to use resonance, and then after that resonance, use forceful backhand to stun him, but that didn't really happen. That's not really important. The important part here is still getting off your natty rotation here. However, that being said, because you take longer to get into back beam here, rocks are gonna fall at a different time, so you're gonna have to like get away from the rock area right here and end up around here. So after your natty, reflect, and Status Warhammer, you need to get out there instantly, and then like surge after your berserk, and then go use your revenge, and then barricade instantly. Since I revenge immediately before barricade, I wasn't gonna get a lot of revenge stacks. So what I do is I run back periodically in order to grab even more revenge stacks, because you can keep building revenge stacks when you're cated, because splashes still count towards it, and these guys can still splash on you even under cade, so you'll still build up revenge stacks under barricade. And then you do the same rotation around here where you do the 4 Giant Claws and the Bleed Assault, and then completely wipe him out just like that. And the same like thing about what I said about P4 about sticky bombing, it still holds true here on P4. So like after like throwing the second sticky bomb, once you see them move right there, if you want to bind them again, then you throw another sticky bomb so you catch them right after they get caught in here, and then you can keep repeating that. If you didn't do enough DPS right here and you feel like that it's gonna mess you up, and you need some more time to do P5, then what you can do is that after they get caught in here, well, they died, but my point is that once they get caught in here, you can throw another sticky bomb around here to catch them again, and then once they run into this sticky bomb, they can throw another sticky bomb to cover your bases again, and you can keep going until you get to a beam that you want to, and then just keep going. Now, be careful to not go too far, otherwise these golems can wrap around and own you that way, so make sure you don't go too far, otherwise you will die. Okay, that's cool and all, but there's the elephant in the room with volcanics, and volcanics can mess you up if you don't know what to do. Fortunately, melee has the best rotation against volcanics out of all 3 styles, and I'll show you why. So, you get inside a beam, whatever. Here, if you have volcanics, you can natty first. Natty first is actually pretty decent here instead of reflect first. So you do reflect first. Sorry, you do reflect after your natural instinct, and then use your Status Warhammer spec. Sometimes you will get stunned before you can do this. This is where freedom comes into play. You don't use anti first, you use freedom first. And these two can actually be interchangeable between each other. If you get stunned, you can like instantly freedom. Like something that I would recommend is you hit both the Status Warhammer spec and freedom at the same time right here. So if you get stunned right before your Status Warhammer spec, at least you can use freedom instantly, then you can Status Warhammer spec instantly right then there. But anyways, after you get both your Status Warhammer and freedom off, then you want to use revenge, power burst, and then Zerk immediately, and then run over here and then surge and get out of that rock area. And then keep your turtle form clear-headed forward switch on right here, and then anti, and then barricade immediately after. This anticipation is so long that it will last you for the entire time until you blade dive and surge, which, by the way, I haven't even mentioned yet, but basically, one step at a time here. So, the anti will go away just as you blade dive and surge, so this anti-stun rotation is just perfect for volcanics out there. But I should probably go explain blade dive surge. Now, since this doesn't work for back beam, of course, because if you try to surge, you'll just not work at all. But because you're technically facing a little diagonally towards Telos right here, this surge will actually go through Telos here, and then you can use Blade Dive to then go into the next beam from there. So the sequence of events is Surge, Blade Dive. And if you are uncomfortable with doing it doing these on the same tick. What you can do is you can forego a little bit of the fourth Dragon Claw, or the third, depending on if you like did Zerk inside Barricade or whatever. But you can forego the last Dragon Claw a little bit and just nail the timing on this until you get it to the point where confident be like, okay, I can get all 4 Dragon Claws inside my barricade. I'm gonna just do all one tick and get as much damage in as possible. So again, surge through because you're facing diagonally, so you will cut through this corner, and then you will blade dive over to here. Careful not to click around here. If you click 1 square south of the beam and you miss it by that much, you will stay here, and you will basically try to blade dive all the way south, but you will go nowhere, and you'll have to run all the way over to here, and that will be a pretty big problem if you didn't sticky bomb both areas right here, and that could probably kill some runs. So if you're a little spooked out, I would recommend right clicking this part, so you surge and then blade dive right then and there. So yeah, keep that in mind. And then there's backbeam volcanics, which is kind of like a mix between this current volcanic rotation and the other backbeam rotation I just talked about. So you go over here, you probably do the res and then stun him right then, forceful backend, and then do natty, reflect, status warhammer, then freedom, surge out there, then berserk. This timing with freedom is actually pretty important right here. So check this out. So you do this right here, get the freedom. You want to run, you want to like surge out there, and then the tick after you surge, then you use your berserk. This lines up all the golems to run at you in the best possible way, so both Telos' auto attack and the golems right here, they happen on opposite ticks, so you won't get owned by pretty fucking Porty right here. And then right after your berserk and revenge, you can just instantly use your clear out for anticipation and barricade, barge, and then do the same DPS rotation right here. And sticky bomb them right here, grab your revenge stacks, and then go from there. And then, see? Not a big problem at all. Still pretty good. But yeah, that's basically all there is to most melee kills there. And there's probably some more stuff I haven't mentioned, but that being said, I hope this serves as a pretty good commentary / like video on melee Telos and some of the fast strategies, some backup strategies for 100%, 1000% plus Telos. Again, I'm probably gonna do another 99% Telos with budget gear. I'm talking stuff like just a Masterwork Spear of Annihilation, the 2 EOFs, Malevolent Armor, and Drygores. No ZGS. But that's gonna come later. It's not gonna come. It would come this month because I'm knee deep in 200k this month. But still, that'll be fun too. Anyways, that about does it for me. Take care, everybody. See you later.